Hey there, I am Squishei and welcome to the Fallen Protectors raid guide for the 10-man normal difficulty. The Fallen Protectors is the second encounter in the Siege of Orgrimmar raid. This encounter is a council-style fight that will require the handling of many different abilities at the same time. The bosses do not have a shared health pool and spawn multiple Shaw creatures in different phases. We recommend bringing 2 tanks, 2 to 3 healers, and a balanced DPS makeup. Let's begin with an overview of the fight. The fight consists of multiple sub-phases called Desperate Measures, each triggering twice throughout the entire encounter at 66 and 33% health. These sub-phases remove one boss and spawn one or multiple adds. When all the adds are killed, the boss will return and end the phase. When Rook casts Desperate Measures, he summons 3 adds in different locations. Embodied Sorrow casts Infernal Strike on the highest threat target, which splits damage evenly to all those inside the effect circle. Embodied Gloom casts Corruption Shock, which hits a random target and all targets within 4 yards. Embodied Misery must be tanked and uses Defiled Ground, a conal ground spot that must be avoided. When Softfoot casts Desperate Measures, he summons an Embodied Anguish and the debuff Mark of Anguish that is applied to a random raid member. This decreases their armor by 50% for 2 minutes. Embodied Anguish will always be fixated on the player with the Mark of Anguish debuff, and every successful melee attack will stack a new debuff called Shadow Weakness. This deals damage over time and stacks. Mark of Anguish can be passed to other players via the extra action button, but doing so grants each player in the raid 1 additional stack of Shadow Weakness. When Sun casts Desperate Measures, she summons a bubble in the center and begins to cast Dark Meditation, dealing a large amount of AoE damage every second. The damage is however reduced for players standing inside the bubble. 2 adds will spawn outside the bubble, and they will summon small Shaws every second that have a linked health pool with the add that spawned them. Lastly, the 3 bosses are tied together with Bond of the Golden Lotus, ending the encounter when the 3 bosses simultaneously reach 0 health. When the encounter begins, one tank should pick up Rook and the other should pick up Softfoot. Rook should be tanked in the center next to Sun for cleaves, ensuring that he is always faced away from the raid. Softfoot should be tanked to the side and constantly swaps between 2 poisons. Instant Poison, which deals extra magic damage on hit, and Noxious Poison, which constantly drops Void Zones on the tank. Note that you can jump over these Void Zones if needed. Softfoot will also attempt to gouge, and the tank should turn his back to Softfoot during the cast. If this does not happen, Softfoot will fixate on a random raid member until taunted back. Either tank should taunt Softfoot as soon as possible to avoid a death. Additionally, he will garrote random members of the raid that leaves a damage over time effect that remains until Softfoot enters Desperate Measures. Sun does not need to be tanked and constantly spams Mindseer, which can be interrupted to lower the damage. Stay spread out to reduce the damage as well. Sun will apply 2 applications of Shadow Word Bane to random players, and they should be dispelled as soon as possible. Shadow Word Bane deals damage and jumps to an additional target every 3 seconds. If the debuff is falling out of hand, a quick Mass Dispel will clean up all affected. Prioritize high stacks of Shadow Word Bane over lower stacks. Additionally, the raid-wide damage of Calamity will remove any applications of the debuff. Calamity deals percentage health to all players of the raid. Rook will toss a keg towards a random raid member, and players should try to dodge it as much as possible. Lastly, Rook will charge to a raid member and use Corruption Kick, dealing a large amount of damage to those who remain in the effect, and leaving a damage over time effect to those hit at least once. Each boss will cast Desperate Measures when they reach 33 or 66% health. Depending on which boss is pushed, a different Desperate Measures phase will begin. Since the raid does not want overlapping desperate measures, it is imperative that the raid only push one boss past each threshold at a time. We recommend pushing the bosses in the order Rook, Softfoot, Sun past 66% first, then the same order past 33%. This ensures that the least amount of players have garrote throughout the entire encounter. For Rook's desperate measures start with full DPS on the embodied Sorrow, ensuring that players maintain a light stack inside the Inferno Strike circle. The Rook tank should pick up the embodied Misery, and the Softfoot tank should pick up embodied Gloom. After Sorrow is dead, DPS should switch to Gloom and interrupt as much as possible, finishing off the phase with Misery. The tank who is holding Misery should tank it out of the raid to not drop Void Zones on top of players. The Void Zones will disappear when the phase ends. For Softfoot's desperate measures, we found it easiest to pass the debuff to the Softfoot tank, who is not currently tanking anything. Use cooldowns on the tank since his armor is reduced for about 2 minutes. Alternatively, players can pass the debuff to other raid members after taking a couple hits to lower the damage. Pick 3 players and set up in a triangle and play hot potato with the add. This method causes more raid damage, adds more movement, but lowers tank damage. For Sun's desperate measures, the entire raid should group inside the center bubble except the Rook tank, who should use cooldowns to survive the extra damage. The Softfoot tank should enter the bubble when Softfoot no longer has Noxious Poison active, ensuring that he doesn't drop Void Zones inside. Range DPS can start on the adds that spawn immediately, and small Sha will begin to spawn. AoE and cleave the Sha that spawn since their health is linked with the add that spawned them. Don't forget to use raid cooldowns since the entire raid is stacked. Once all 3 bosses are below 33% and you've completed all 6 desperate measure phases, then simply bring down all 3 bosses to 0 health simultaneously and it will end the encounter. Note that if a boss remains at 0 health for a long amount of time, it will heal for 20% health. There was a lot of information in this guide, so here's a quick recap. The bosses do not share health and the encounter ends when the bosses simultaneously hit 0 health. Have one tank on Rook and the other on Softfoot. Make sure that the Softfoot tank turns his back during Gouge. Dispel the magic debuffs as soon as possible, and range should stay loosely spread for Mindseer. Every 33 and 66% of a boss's health, the encounter will enter a certain phase. Push these bosses past both these thresholds one at a time in the order Rook, Softfoot, Sun. For Rook's phase, stay loosely stacked inside the red circle for Inferno Strike, and kill the adds in the order Sorrow, Gloom, Misery. For Softfoot's phase, pass the debuff to the Softfoot tank using the extra action button, or play hot potato with the debuff and kite the add. For Sun's phase, everyone but the Rook tank should stack inside the barrier, use raid cooldowns, and AoE or cleave the add that spawns. Stay tuned for more Siege of Orgrimmar raid guides. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. I'm Squishei, and thanks for watching.